Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Water Trio Astrology Podcast. I'm here with my dear friends and colleagues, Alicia and Cassandra, and we're going to be sharing a few insights about the astrology of the 2-week period starting July 20th and running through until the 2nd of August. There is a lot happening this week. It's a much busier 2-week period astrologically compared to the last 2 weeks. So we're going to dive right in. Cassandra, there's a cat playing with your flowers.
Kevin.
I love that he's called Kevin. It's like Bruce.
I could just see this little paw and I was like, oh my gosh, that's adorable.
Do you want to say hello to the world, Kevin? I don't think we've introduced you.
No, I don't. No. I just want to
He's a bit of a wriggly worm of a kitten.
Wriggly worm. Oh my God, he's so sweet.
He's growing so much.
I love that. And they are beautiful flowers. I was like, either he's put on weight or his coat's gotten a lot fluffier because he's a hell of a lot bigger than he used to be.
Oh, yeah. He's both. He's a medium hair, so he's a purring, cuddly fluff ball.
Oh,
so
adorable.
Yeah, he's a snuggler, but just doesn't like to be picked up.
Yeah, one of ours doesn't.
Back to the astrology.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, how could I make a segue here? But I'm like, well, that's one of your fur babies. And Leisha's going to kick us off this period by talking about the new moon in Cancer, I think.
Oh, yes, I'm first up,
You're
aren't I?
first up,
okay.
yeah. First cab off the ranks, coming in hot and strong this period.
All right, so we have the new moon in Cancer, the second new moon in Cancer, the last one being a solar eclipse. And this one, woohoo, is the first new moon in Cancer we've had since 2017 that is not an eclipse. So I'm personally really looking forward to this because I always love the new moon in Cancer. It's the moon in its own sign, and it's just a chance to really, as we were talking about last episode, really get in touch with what makes us feel secure, what makes us feel comfortable, what makes us feel nurtured and nourished. And there is the opposition with this one that is going to be happening with Saturn. So it's not necessary. The way I'm looking at it is we need to really get structured and put strong boundaries around what's important to us in how we nurture, nourish, and take care of ourselves. So
just more cat action, sorry. Kevin is just a beautiful distraction.
Because I feel like, with Saturn coming back into Cancer, I just feel like that, that Gloria Gaynor song, so you're back from outer space, I will survive.
Yes.
There's that sense of this with this new moon in Cancer of okay, where can we set the boundaries in place to help us survive? To lock in the nourishment, to lock in the water that helps protect us and support us and give us life so that we can go forward from here. And whatever helps bring us that circling that Cass was talking about so beautifully in the last one of okay, how do I get comfortable? How do I get into a place where I feel more settled and more at ease? So there is that need to really use some, strategic thinking or some good boundaries to do it. But yeah, so this is happening at very early in the morning on the 21st of July here in Australia. So that's the 20th for the rest of the world. And it's happening at 28 degrees of Cancer. So what are your takes on it, gals?
Cass, do you have any Cancer thoughts?
A few. I'm really looking forward to this because, as you said, Leash, it's the first non-eclipse lunation in Cancer for some time. And, of course, the first non-eclipse lunation that we've had recently. So what I like about this in particular is while the opposition to Saturn is, probably not the most ideal introduction to eclipse-free lunations, but what is good about it is that, it can help you have that one cathartic release, that last look back, but also kind of clear the decks and set the new foundation of your Cancer house moving forward without the disruptive quality of the eclipses. So I do quite like that this could help you return to a former dream or goal, and the Saturnian influence there might kind of give you a little bit of an oomph behind looking at things in the long term. And also too, this is pretty much like fairly hot off the heels of a Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. It's still in play. It's in play pretty much all year. So this might also help, remind you of a dream or a goal that's past, or it might also help you realize how far you've come or how many resources you've already got access to, or those type of things as well, whether those resources are, physical, financial, but most importantly, I think emotional. That emotional resilience and depth can be highlighted too under this one. And you might sort of realize that you could be a little bit richer than you thought, in whichever way, wealth is really important to you, whether that's money in the bank, food in the cupboard, or, family under your roof. It's the primal things I think will be really highlighted under this new moon.
Yeah, like the survival stuff, right? Like
yeah,
whether
exactly.
that's, feeding yourself or financial security, housing, family stuff, career, like the main things.
Yeah, sort of that real primal, when I think about Cancer, being a Cancer, being a mother to a Cancer, and people sometimes will ask me, just about whether it's motherhood or Cancer, the sign of Cancer itself. It's like, oh, if we love you, it's ferocious and it's unconditional. Like it's, and I think Cancer always gets reduced to being moody and, it annoys me. But anyway, it's a ferocious, a very protective. And if you're inside that clan, if you're inside the circle, you are very much valued. It's like the mafia. Try and get out of it. Like we may not be the cuddliest, but we will like love you so ferociously if you are a part of that Cancer vibe. So this new moon can help also reacquaint you with those primal things that are important to you. And so for some people, it's actually not family, that's maybe not their primary thing. It might be the friends that they call family, or it might be a community that they're closely connected with and stuff like that. So again, I guess it's what your relationship and your chart is to Cancer.
Yeah, it's a weird mix of like new moon moving forward vibe versus like as soon as the moon kind of goes through that new moon, there's that opposition to Saturn. So it's like, hang on, I want to go forward, but there's this thing from the past that I need to address, or there's this roadblock or this structural thing, or there's a bunch of papers that I need to file and organize. But it is really nice. I think you mentioned this, Leash, that it's the first lunation in like 6 weeks or something that's not an eclipse.
Yep.
Which is
I think
great.
Cass mentioned that, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm like, somebody mentioned this might be Cass.
Yeah, I know. Like,
yeah.
It's like, it was a really long eclipse season. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we're returning to regular programming with this
totally.
lunation,
Totally.
Like I think I said it in the last episode, like where they would say, back to so-and-so with the weather. It just feels like we're back on the regular schedule a little bit. So, it can, whether you're, the three of us, we've been into new moon intentions and things like that since our very early days with our astro training wheels on. And we were just reflecting, Mercury in Cancer, just how much benefit and connection we've got from that. So it can really help you just sort of return to something and get into a regular rhythm and pattern as well. So, the kind of comfort of Cancer and the familiarity that Cancer needs in order to move forward with something can be had as well.
Yeah.
This is going to be fun. This is going to be a nice new moon, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be nice to look forward for sure. So then, just thinking what's next. It might be me. Sun in Leo.
Yes, because that's the next
That's
day.
worth mentioning.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite things about July.
I want my top for it.
Yeah, you did. Oh my God. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I'm wearing a new top, so maybe that's the closest I get to red. It's or Leo or something new. So the sun moves into Leo July 22nd. So we have about 4 weeks of the sun in Leo. From a technical perspective, what's good about this, there's two things that are good about this. The sun is in rulership in the sign of Leo. So the sun is kind of at its best. There's a vitality, a strengthening, a stabilizing quality that the sun in Leo can bring. The other thing is that the sun is now off axis, or it's moved out of that opposition to Saturn and Pluto. So it's the Saturn and Pluto and all the Capricorn stuff is still there, but for 4 weeks, the sun is kind of shining a bright light somewhere else in the zodiac. And that can translate to, knowing the big stuff is there and you're going to have to come back to it, but maybe having a few weeks where it's not front and center. It's not the immediate thing that you're dealing with day in and day out. And I do get this sense of like maybe reconnecting with a little bit of joy or something that is life-affirming, thinking about the qualities of the sun and, having the sun in a place where it's got some great dignity. I know that, nobody really knows exactly yet what's going to happen with COVID, and there's some economic concerns that are out there. So I'm not trying to say that the sun in Leo will make everything perfect, but it is a little bit like a bright light in the darkness where you figure out, I'm going to have that phone call each week with a friend, or, I can do this one thing for myself or for someone I love that's going to make us both feel good. And so there's a sense of rediscovering something that's going to bring a bit of that radiant warmth into our lives. What do you girls think about this?
I think this is going to be a nice influence, as you said, Kel, that off-axis influence. And I think sometimes, one really obvious factor of Leo that seems to get a little bit overlooked is it's fixed. It is a solid, enduring, resilient type of quality. And, as you said, with COVID, we don't really know how life is going to look, moving forward. So the sun in Leo can also help us get back to our own center and our own sense of, our own source, like rather than, being bounced around by external components, whether that is what's on the news, what's on your social media feeds, being bounced by external situations. You can come back to your own internal fire and put some logs on your own coals kind of thing, and really stoke what helps keep you centered in your own orbit, and help keep you grounded and sort of refueling your fire to help you get through the longer term cycles that we're coming through. So whether that means just, centering yourself from a meditational perspective, or maybe a physical perspective, or even just, turning your light in a direction anywhere but from where it's been kind of thing.
Yes.
And also just as a little bit of a thing to perhaps keep in the background with the Saturn transit, a sun in Leo transit, is that it is going to be covering the other end of the axis of where Saturn in Aquarius has just been. So this might kind of help us, maybe return to that part of our lives a little bit more and set us up for that future cycle that's going to be influential as the year ends.
Good point. Yeah. Leash.
Yeah, I think you've both made really beautiful points. And I think just to add with this is, we're coming out of, the sun's the first one really to leave the watery realms of Cancer and lead us into the fire of Leo. And there is this feeling of brightening up, lightening up, drying out a bit and coming. I just love the playfulness of Leo and the core stuff that you were talking about, Cass, absolutely. But it's almost like a creative way that we can access that, thinking about it differently, and just how can we do it in quite a childlike way. It always just reminds me of lion cubs playing in the dust, kind of batting at each other, the fun and the lightness that can happen with this. So yeah, just to try and, I always talk about Leo season as the festival of Leo, because it's all show, it's all out there. It doesn't matter when we look at the solar system, when we look at the sun in the sky, it takes control. You can't see anything else except occasionally the moon. Everything else goes into the background. So there is this sense with Leo, okay, what is it about self? What is it about me? And how can I shine that out there during this season? And as you said, Cal, yes, in varying circumstances, we can't do what we normally would do. But to find as much as you can to get playful and to bring that really bright, fiery Leo energy in.
Totally. And then, that's making me think of make sure you know about the Leo part of your chart and just see if you can vitalize or improve or enhance the qualities of your experiences there. I guess while we're on the sun in Leo, I'll just quickly throw in that towards the end of this 2-week period, Sunday, August 2nd, the sun will come up to make a square with Uranus in Taurus. So it's kind of like the only big dramatic aspect that the sun in Leo has, but there is one, and that will be the sun square Uranus around the 2nd of August.
10 degrees.
I was just looking for the degrees, 10 degrees.
Yeah, it's right as Uranus is stationing, actually.
That's
it's the
right.
degree Uranus is stationing on. Yeah.
Yeah, so Sun Uranus does have that surprise or that shock factor, the unexpected. Uranus can quicken things. So yeah, the sun in Leo, you were saying, Cass, is that steady fixed energy that's got great consistency. But Sun Uranus is oh my God, something's got to change, or we're going to have to pivot quite quickly, or we need to be a little bit flexible because we're in an evolving situation. So a bit of excitement with the sun square Uranus on August 2nd. Did either of you girls have any thoughts on that one?
Oh, I always have thoughts on Uranus transits.
Okay.
Uranus conjunct the descendant here. But yeah, just that, this is new territory in terms of Uranus. Uranus hasn't been in this area of Taurus yet. So it's like a spotlight's being shone, especially if you have planets between, 6 to 12 degrees of the fixed signs. This might be shining a new light on an area of your life where you have to be flexible, or where you have to change, or where you need to shift, or you're feeling restless around. And it's giving yourself the permission to be different, to look for unusual options, or to innovate in a way that that you haven't thought of before. So if you're feeling that tapping on the shoulder or the nudge between the shoulder blades, listen out for that and see where friction might be telling you things have to change.
Super exciting. Cass, any Sun Uranus thoughts?
Well, I have Sun trine Uranus natally. So, thinking about all the points that you've both already brought up, and the square aspect does really bring some tension around the individual, or the authentic expression, or kind of forging through into new territory, even if it feels a little bit scary or unknown. And moving with fixed signs, that is kind of, forced change with resistance. And one of, my favorite, speaking of social media memes and quotes and things like that, and I do love it, and it really does kind of resonate to me, at least. And it says, I'd rather be someone's shot of whiskey than everyone's cup of tea. And I think when we have these Uranus transits, it does invite us to ask ourselves, it's just another way of saying, am I being authentically who I need to be in a particular time, space, or place? Or am I trying to be everything to everyone and end up nothing to no one? And so sometimes that can be, especially the sun in Leo, really does want to be that beacon of light. And there are some times where the beacon of light that you're best being is to yourself first and foremost. And if people want to stand in that light with you, that's great. But there may be times where you're like, oh, okay, well, I have to kind of focus on me first a little bit. So just some food for thought around, your beverages under this aspect.
I love how you can always bring it back to beverages, Cass.
I do love a good scotch.
It makes me think about Freddie Mercury and that Freddie Mercury movie, and how he it got to that point where he was being defined by his hangers-on. I always think about the sun, it attracted the planets in. It was the sun's gravity that brought the planets in. It doesn't necessarily even want them there. They're just there. And I feel like often for Leos that can feel what life is like.
Yeah.
But in a way, because that was his mirror, that shaped him. And then there was just this sudden shock or this sudden change in his life where he got a new perspective and went, wow, who have I become? What have I become? And do I want to be this person anymore? And that's potentially what this is. It's like, what's being reflected into you from the people that surround you, and is that what you want to accept about yourself?
Yeah. So it's a little bit of a call to kind of individuate, isn't it? To kind of try to get to the essence of your light, like with the sun in Leo square Uranus. It's like, what's something that's really genuinely you, and then also connecting with whether it's courage or confidence or a daring quality to just live from that place, to not dull your light or to not take your shiny quirky bits, not to make them go away for acceptance, just to bring them out. And as you said, Leash, like almost allow who needs to come to you in your essence to come in, rather than to try and contort yourself to maybe keep certain people close when it's keeping you small at the same time. So many great explorations there. So lots of like vibing with the light, with the sun in Leo, I guess.
Yes. Tribe is my vibe.
Right, yes. And Cass, you're going to tell us about Mercury, what the trickster planet is up. Oh, no, you're going to – hang on. Who's doing Neptune? Somebody doing Neptune and somebody doing Mercury?
I think Alicia was going to talk a little bit about Neptune.
Neptune, okay.
I'm happy to do it.
Yeah.
But I think this is your signature Mary Poppins, isn't it? The Jupiter Neptune.
Yes.
That is
where
true.
Anything is possible, even the impossible. And it's funny because it's, last year it was all about the square between these two planets. This year it's all about the sextile between them. And it was almost like the tension that had to feel between each other last year is now bringing them more into alignment this year. It's like, okay, they've learned the lessons. Sextiles are an easier, that they speak more of a language because they're both in the yin signs. We've got Jupiter in Capricorn, we've got Neptune in Pisces, whereas last year we had, trying to marry fire and water didn't work. Anyway, I'm going off on a very Neptune tangent here. But at the same time, like within hours, we've also got Venus in Gemini coming up for her final square to Neptune as well. And I just was really struck by the fact that both the benefics are going to be entangled in Neptune's energy on that day. So we're talking the 27th of July for most of the world. It'd be very early on the 28th here. It's kind of a bad analogy. I don't know. I just kept thinking about Romeo and Juliet, and it's like neither Jupiter and Venus can't see each other in the sky, but they're talking through Neptune. But there's no way that there's any clarity with Neptune and the potions that are going on there. So I just think it's this idea that there is good out there, but we've got to work out who we trust and who we believe in, and to get imaginative, to get creative, and just to let go. I mean, if you can take that Monday off work, do it, go there, give yourself, that extra weekend. This is definitely a time to kind of go away. But yeah, I'm always talking with Neptune, access the magic, access the imaginative with this, and try to dream what's impossible and see what steps you can put in place. I think because Venus is involved in this as well, this is definitely about love and beauty and relationships and how you can make the impossible possible around those kind of connections. So yeah, what about you gals? What are you thinking? Any thoughts?
Oh yeah, so many thoughts. So this is like the Neptune mood Monday, July 27th, right? With Venus square Neptune and Jupiter sextile Neptune. And I think it's Tuesday in Australia, maybe the 28th.
It's like 2 a.m., 3 a.m.
Right.
So yeah.
I actually will be on holidays this week, so I'm very excited about
Nice.
that,
Nice.
which I'm very happy about. But I like the piece, yeah, it's like trying to use Neptune as a connecting tool and Neptune just, being a little bit dazed and vague and confused. The one thing that does come to my mind, I think a little bit of compassion with the Jupiter-Neptune piece that, Jupiter has been dealing with some difficult activations from Saturn, Pluto, which have stirred up difficult experiences or difficult topics. And Jupiter Neptune is like almost a little bit of a cohesive, like how can we collaborate or connect, or how can we find a way through that's a little bit more heart-centered, or maybe even, dare I say, a little bit more kind. I don't know that it'll be perfect solution, but it's starting to do some of that imaginative dreaming about what are the different ways we could go forward from here. Venus Neptune, I'm kind of weirdly looking forward to that because this is the third in a series of 3 Venus-Neptune squares that Venus in Gemini has been making. The first 2 were all the way back in May, just before or just after she went retrograde. So in some ways, this feels like a real completion of some of the stuff that's been going on as far back as May. Now, it might create a sense of that kind of fairy dust, what's real, what's not real. May was this real sort of almost out of time, timeless month with all the different things that were going on collectively. And I just wonder if there's like a little bit of a revisiting that so that we can maybe catch something that we didn't see in the muddle that was May. So I know that there is definitely going to be confusion or crossed wires, in that start of that last week of July. But I wonder if it can help us complete, close, release, or heal from something that's been up since early May. So it's just a few thoughts I had.
That's a nice one. A nice way to think about it.
Oh, thanks. Cass, do you have any input on these ones?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's definitely a revisiting of theme from May, and the Neptune involvement here, it's like, well, we're taking another step forward with something, but we're still not clear on the direction, or we're still not fully aware of how things are. But I think the Jupiter involvement here still got a vibe here that there's a bit of hope or wanting to do good with something, ultimately, Jupiter, even though in and of itself it's not a great condition in Capricorn, it is a planet that does want to do good, or it does want to, integrate or even out things, or, see the best out of a situation. And so, this might be like if it's a romantic situation or relationship situation, or it could be a work or what have you, it might be like, well, I'll give this one last go. Even though I'm still not fully sure, I feel more hopeful or positive about, and it could be a little bit, Pollyanna-ish and hoping for the best, but it feels like a little bit more like maybe like the Fool in the tarot deck, where I'm going to go blindly or potentially foolishly, but I'm also willing, and I'm going in with eyes wide open, even if I'm not sure where I'm looking right now, but in my heart, it feels right or it feels pure. There's not maybe the internal guessing that was happening in May. So, it's sort of like a step forward, even if the windscreen's still a little bit foggy.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
I like that.
And one last thing I wanted to add as well, like this is definitely a weekend to kind of go on a yoga retreat or some kind of spiritual retreat, or, because that's always a great thing to try to access with Neptune too, of connecting to what's transcendent.
Beautiful.
Yeah, totally. Then I think it's me.
Now it is you, Cass. Sorry, I had my own little Neptune moment there, didn't I? Like, who's talking about this?
Of course it's Neptune.
Totally.
Oh, we're saving the best for last again.
Yes, absolutely. And you're going to tell us all about Mercury's mood this week.
Yeah, well, I guess like what Mercury is doing this, during this fortnight.
Excuse me. Sorry.
Or I could do the Seinfeld. Do the Seinfeld and go, you're so good looking. Do you remember that episode?
No.
Not everyone
I love that.
does.
Is this their alternative to Bless You or something?
I love a good Seinfeld joke, but that's showing my age now. Instead of saying bless you, you just surprise someone and tell them you're so good looking.
That's my God.
Nice.
I think that's hilarious.
I like that. It's like a modern day bless you, really, isn't it?
I think it's hilarious. Not everyone does, and I'm sorry about that. Okay, so Mercury. So Mercury is doing basically the same journey in the zodiac that the sun had done in our previous episode. So how I was explaining that the sun is kind of lighting up some of the stuff around Jupiter and Pluto. Now Mercury's coming along and maybe giving us the intel or the information around that aspect. You know, how that might be playing out for you personally, or how that might be playing out collectively. What I also really like about this aspect is that Mercury is obviously no longer retrograde. It's also cleared of its shadow, I'm pretty sure. That would have been, 14? Now this is all sort of kicking off at 16 and 20 kind of thing this week. So, yeah, so now Mercury is like, it's still Cancer, but it's its best version now. It's out of any retrograde hangovers, and it can give us some very perhaps intuitive or sensitive or caring insights that may not necessarily be rationally sound, but they still feel like the right thing to do moving forward, as a part of the whole Jupiter Pluto piece that's playing out in 2020. So I'm sort of maybe anticipating that we will perhaps hear maybe more women's voices or more caring voices, or perhaps even women's voices in power, whether that's politically, from a celebrity standpoint, or what have you, really start to perhaps give voice to things that may have not been quite as loud or as here we are, I'm going to have a Mercury Cancer moment now, not quite as perhaps eloquent as what it was when it was retrograde. So I think this is going to be a very interesting kind of little kind of two-punch thing that's happening here with Cancer there, with the sun and then Mercury coming through and doing its thing with Jupiter and Pluto. What do you girls think about that?
When I was looking at this, I was actually looking at the fact that when Mercury is opposing Jupiter, especially, Mercury is going to be in Jupiter's terms in Cancer as well. So there's even more of that kind of bringing the themes together of how do we bring our beliefs and our ideals and into a place that is about sensitivity and caring and protection and support. So I think these are some of the themes that are going to be around this, of even reflecting more on what our belief systems are and then how we can communicate them, but in a way that comes across that shows care and compassion for where the other person is as well. So I think that was my kind of, that's interesting that that's happening in that way, because, often Mercury and Jupiter just don't really know how to speak the same language. I always talk about Mercury as like the journalist and Jupiter's like the opinion piece writer. One's all about the facts and one's all about, well, this is what I believe. But it's like there's more of a connection between the two of them there. So, what about you, Kel?
Yeah, I was really interested I know Mercury's going to oppose Pluto, I think, around August 1st. And that's like a truth serum, truth-telling, dig in, investigate kind of aspect. But I am really intrigued by the July 30th piece for a slightly different reason for you, Leash. But I think I was like, I didn't even think to look at the Mercury-Jupiter terms thing. But the Mercury trine to Neptune there as well. So it's all at 20 degrees. Mercury's at 20 Cancer, Neptune's at 20 Pisces, Jupiter's at 20 Capricorn. So there's this triple play going on with those three planets. And that also to me was we've got some big ideas, we've got some big visions, there's some potential for healing or some compassion, there's some spiritual inspiration, or there's a lot of imagination. It's not super grounded, but I think it sort of indicated to me ideas or conversations that are really coming from a genuine desire to grow or expand or to move forward or to heal in some way. But it did feel like it could be a little bit overwhelming with the flood of ideas or the flood of emotion that could come through then. But I liked something about that triangle pattern and the idea of pieces coming together or pieces linking up. So that's something that I was thinking about for that aspect. And
it's like the softening that. Oh, sorry.
No, it's Kevin. He just was reappearing.
Oh,
it was a little. Sorry, Lee. She's going to say something about softening, which is also such a great word.
There's a lot of softening with this. It's like the water of Cancer and the water of Neptune can help soften the hard edges that Capricorn has and has had with all this Jupiter, Pluto, and now Saturn in there. It's like, okay, how can we bring, I don't know, it's just this idea of rounding corners. I think of the kids, when you have small children and you have to put the rounded edges on the table so that they won't run into it. It's like, okay, how can we soften things to be protective and to make sure that there's a safe space for everybody.
Beautiful. So that brings us to the end of this 2 weeks, doesn't it? That's a lot of,
the end of the month
going
really.
On. Yeah, it's like I can't believe next time we get together, it's going to be like we're doing our regular forecast. It's going to be August. What? Like
I know.
I mean,
I know.
I
think we say this
probably every time. We're just showing our age, really, because you don't talk like this in your early 30s. I'll just say that.
No, or in your 20s.
No, your 20s. Oh my God, not even. So, what do you gals have coming up? What are you looking forward to?
I will have my new moon group this month, but I'm doing it in quite a different way. I will be having individual signs that, meditations and rituals that they can download. And then there will be a 1 hour. So you'll get all the information beforehand. You can have some time to work it out and work through your intentions, and then there'll be a 1 hour catch up to be able to work that out. And that will be on the 21st of July here in Australia. So that will be the evening of the 20th in the US. So come along, see my new format, get some really personal information, and then be able to come and bring your questions in.
Fantastic.
What about you girls?
Cass?
For me, this will be sort of the end of the month. So I'll just be this sort of fortnight week. I'll just be collecting all the data, the Gemini rising data, and, getting all my insights together for the month of August to promote the Golden Circle Club, which is like a monthly membership where you can, get all the insights around the months and boost your astro knowledge and just living in harmony with the universe, I guess.
Excellent.
Cool.
That's what I'll be doing. Yeah.
Super
How
excited.
about you, Kel?
I will be on holidays for most of this 2 week period, which I'm looking forward to. But I'm thinking about the timing. My next webinar for Astrology University is going to be Saturday, August 15. We're just finalizing the topic at the moment, but I think it's going to have something to do with the 12th house. And by the time you're listening to this, if you pop over to my website, you will see the information there. And if that's of interest to you, you can sign up. So that's Saturday, August 15. It's 9 a.m. Pacific time in the US, which is not a great time, Australian time, I don't think. It's like ridiculously early on Sunday morning. But if you're in the US, it'll be, during the day on Saturday. And if you're in Europe, it'll be Saturday evening. And if you are in Australia and you want to grab the recording, everybody who registers gets the video replay plus the slides. So even if you can't make it live, you can certainly get the training and the information. But that'll be it for me for this period, I think. Yeah, just a little bit of I'm trying to embrace the idea of the Northern Hemisphere summer mid-year break, which is still feels a little unfamiliar to me, having lived for 30 years in Australia, where I'm expecting my summer break in January. In my ideal life, I'll have 2 summer breaks a year, but I'm not quite there yet. So we'll take the summer break, go to Australia and have some time there when it's your summer. But yeah, for now. And just seeing, going traveling wherever we can safely in Europe.
Nice.
So thanks everyone for joining us this week. Anything else
Don't
from
forget
you
to hit the
gals?
subscribe button.
Subscribe. Okay, yeah, good. I always forget
And
that.
share with your friends. If you're enjoying this,
Yeah.
share with your friends.
Yeah, subscribe, like the video, leave a comment below. That all helps other people find the show if you're liking it and you want people to know about us.
Share the love.
Yeah.
The water love.
The water.
All the Venus, Neptune love.
On that note, before we all break out in song for you.
Love.
Oh my God. I love it. So have a lovely 2 weeks and we'll see you in August, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.